Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Delta Report. Oh, this world has gone insane. You see this? What I got in the picture right here? This is Trump's Mar-a-Lago or wherever it is down in Florida, his big estate. Beautiful place, you know. Well-groomed, manicured trees, lots of places to stay, lots of buildings where you're comfortable and everything. Well, the FBI came in and raided the place and everything. I guess they call Trump went through the place. They got some sort of a, what do they call it? Warrant. They got a warrant and they were in there. I'm going to tell you guys what. I just see the whole world right now as being a little bit nutty. And I want to see it straighten out and get back to more normal. But ever since 2020, I honestly believe everybody on Earth has had COV. C-O-V. It's like it's it's the virus. The virus. Just about everybody, and they told us that. They said everybody on Earth is going to be exposed to this thing. And, I'm just sitting here wondering, does it make people go a little bit nutty and fruity in the head or something else? Like crazy? A little bit a few marbles short of a load sort of thing? You know? Well, what's up with this cove thing? And I'm just curious, I'm just saying, hey, maybe something does something to your brain. Maybe it gets inside your head or something. Because we got the Chinese over there right now. And they're very upset because Pelosi, like I saw her walking up on stage, over there in Taiwan, to accept a medal or whatever she, whatever she's doing. I think that a lot of these rich people are invested in Taiwanese semiconductors and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And she's kind of bouncing up on stage, and everything else. She kind of and I was thinking to myself, why are they so upset? Come on, she's like, how old is she anyway? you know, I mean, it's just so much, and they're over there. The Chinese are so upset right now that they are building new nuclear weapons as fast as they possibly can. And the Russians are so upset over there in Russia right now that they're building all these nuclear weapons just as fast as they can because they're building all these new nuclear weapons. The United States is over there building nuclear weapons as fast as they can. And these new weapons are called hypersonics. And they're putting all their investments into these new hypersonics. The damn thing, you don't even know what hits you if you get hit with a hypersonic. It's flying at like 10 times the speed of sound. It's just bang, bang, in a big mushroom cloud. You don't even know where it comes from. It comes in that fast. Just like, you have like a 1 second. So, if you're, like, say, 100 miles inland, that thing strikes the coast of your country, and it makes that 100 miles up in less than like 2 seconds. Bang, it's there. And boom. And bright flash. And you can't even turn well, of course, your attention's going to be turned toward it. You're going to look over toward it, and you're going to be blind. Then what are you going to do? Grope around while the radiation's falling all around you? And so what's the point in all them building all these things? We don't need them. We don't want them. We never asked for them. They're using our money. This is your retirement money, guys. I'm going to tell you. That's why I say the world's crazy. Because they're the people that you put in power, and you said, okay, we trust you. We're going to elect you into power. And you elect them into power, and what do? They spend your retirement money to build hypersonic missiles so that they can blow you up with them. Because I call these boomerang weapons. That's what I call them. That's my name for them. Because what you do is, you send the weapon out, and 2 hours later, it comes back to you. Well, it's not the exact same weapon. It's the other side's weapon, but that's why I call it like a boomerang. When you throw a boomerang, it comes back to you. That's what these weapons do. I call them boomerang weapons because every country has them. This is called mutually assured destruction. And only a bunch of crazies, and that's what we got in power around the world, in every different country on earth, is a bunch of lunatics. Only a lunatic would want to build these weapons in the first place. Or spend all of our retirement money building these. And what are we going to do when we get to retirement age? Well, there's going to be nothing left for you. That's what their plan is. That's their great plan, is the next generation, maybe not this generation, but the next generation that comes around to retire, they're not going to be able to retire. What does that mean? It means they're just not going to be able to eat. And first off, it's not going to be enough food going around. They've decided, these ones that we've put in power have decided that they're going to not use fertilizer anymore. They're going to do everything half-assed backwards. And so what are we going to have to even eat? Like 20 years from now? It's not going to fall so much on the generation that's retiring right. Well, it is. The generation that's retiring right now, because we are going to have to continue working until we die. But at least maybe we'll be able to eke out some food enough to stay alive. But the next generation after that, these politicians keep on going. There's going to be no food for you to retire. There's not even going to be enough food for the working class people. And so all of this, what we got going on right now in the world, is completely what's called unsustainable. And say, well, what does that mean? It means we're all walking toward a cliff, and our politicians are the ones leading us toward the cliff, instead of leading us to a brighter future. We've got a political class that we've elected into office around the world. I'm not going to select any one country and say, hey, that's a country responsible for this crap. It's all of them. They're all bad. What I hate to bring this to you guys but this is like a guy going into a dentist's office and the dentist looking at your teeth and saying they all need to be pulled. They're all bad. And that's the way with this. We've got a bunch of bad eggs. Just like in the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, that little girl, she jumps up on the thing and the thing goes, bad egg, peek, down the thing. Well, that's the way with all these political guys out there that are running the show right now. They're all a bunch of bad eggs. And they don't want, if a guy comes along, now listen, I've seen workplaces where you've got somebody will be hired on and they all got a cushy job, and the guy starts to actually work. He's packing the packages and he's moving the forklift around. The other guys come over and they look at him and they say, what the hell is he doing? He's working. And they say, listen, you, slow it down a little bit. Quit working. The guy says, isn't that what I'm hired on to do here is work? They say, no, you got it all wrong. You're not supposed to work around here. None of us work. We just pretend like we're working. Well, that's what the political structure's like right now. They're all out there, and they all got this racket going. And you get a guy come in who doesn't know the racket. And he starts to say, well, we've got to work for the people. We've got to improve the situation for the people and stuff. And they say, hey, wait a minute. Don't you know that we are all politically corrupt, a bunch of like a criminal organization? We got this racket going and we want to keep it going and we don't want you around here anymore. Well, that's what the political structure's like worldwide. It's all been corrupted, totally. And what it's going to do ultimately in the end, it's going to lead to a mass casualty event of humanity. So I expect that it could be as bad as nobody survives it. That's how bad it could be. Because they've all got all these nuclear plants, over 400 nuclear plants around the world, just running constantly, and they all have to be cooled. So if we get too much nonsense goes on, society breaks down too much, Well, we just might not be able to cool all of our reactors. There'd be nobody to take care of them. In which case, 50 years from now, there won't be any humans left. I mean, that's how bad it could get, ultimately. And in the best case scenario, still an awful lot of people are going to go for it. And the reason why is as our money is corrupted, our the politics out there is totally corrupted. Everything is just a total mess. It reminds me when I was a kid, I went on the beach, I wanted to go fishing. I didn't have any fishing gear. And there was this big ball on the beach. It looked like a big, one of these things that float around the desert. What are they called? A brush ball, that floats around the desert. But it was a big ball. It was a big ball of this monofilament fishing line, and it had hooks in it. It had sinkers in it. It had fishing line in it. It had everything you'd need to go fishing, but it was a big giant ball. It was a big... And I sat for hours as a kid unraveling this thing, getting it all straightened out again. But it was a big ball and a big mess, and it wasn't any good for anybody or anything. But straighten it out, and then it becomes more good. It becomes something you can actually use. Okay, that's what the world's political structure is like right now. It's like that big ball or big mess. And they're mostly all corrupt, and it needs to be straightened out. But if nobody straightens it out, ultimately it's going to lead to the demise of an awful massive amount of people, because the world is not going to be able to support the amount of people that are living on the planet. I believe that if this planet was run efficiently, if productivity was a positive and everybody was running very efficiently on this planet could probably easily support 20 billion people. But we got 8 billion people out there right now, and it's being run so inefficiently with so much of this nonsense that's going on, these leaders out there who really shouldn't even be there, that we can't even support the 8 billion. In fact, it could get so bad, the disruption, because we are so, they've designed it so that we are so reliant upon everything. Like the internet, for one thing, if it went down. And we got no redundant systems in place to cover any sort of an outage of, well, the internet would be a big one, but the power grid, telecommunications, even the money itself, if the money becomes so it ceases to function properly. We've created a society that, yes, it does run, and it takes a lot to bring it down, because look, we went through the COVID crisis and it didn't collapse. But ultimately, when it does collapse, who's out there that can get it all running again? We'd just be a confused disorder. And people realize this. I'm not the only one that realizes this. And this is why people call this. They've even got a name for it. They call it SHTF. Or basically a meltdown of the structure of society. And what do? How do you restructure it again? It's been something that's been slowly structured over a period of like 7,000 years. But it's all been put together kind of like with no orderly plan to it or anything. And then you've got this corruption enters into the scene in the political theater. And it's totally becomes corrupt, and the money's all been corrupted and everything. The whole thing could just basically melt on us. And that'd be a worst case scenario. Best case scenario is that we suffer through something that looked something similar to the Great Depression of the 1930s, which is still, horrific. And we're right on the verge of all these things happening right now. But for some reason, most of the general population out there cannot see it. They're blind to it. Even though we're right on the verge. We're so close to it happening. And part of the reason why all of this would happen is we've become divided. Politically speaking, terribly bad, especially in places like the United States. Of extensive political divide. between left and right-wing politics, where they cannot agree on anything. And it's all one-sided, depending on their viewpoint. And, I mean, it's awfully difficult, like, for a person to be objective about this. And so, I mean, this is why I'm kind of sickened by the mess that's going on in the world, because I can see something coming that has the potential to take out humanity. But on the other side of that, humanity is awfully resilient. And so I think that we're going to get through this ultimately. But the big question mark is, how bad is it going to be? And we're going to have to be restructured on the other side of this, so that we're more organized and productive. It's just the way it is. If we're going to survive as a species, we're going to have to become, this is a hurdle. It's like people that are running in a race, they have these hurdles on the track. And what happens to a hurdle racer, if his foot catches the hurdle, down he goes flat on his face, maybe his teeth get busted and everything else. We got to be careful that's not what happens to us. We clear that hurdle. This is the hurdle that we're at right now. We got to jump over it. And on the other side of this hurdle, we can become a species that is more technologically advanced and more productive, and run and structured. Society is run and structured in a way that's much better than it is now. Or we could fall flat in our face. In worst case scenario, we could be destroyed as a civilization. And I hate to say it, but we're facing that point in time where we've kind of drifted along through thousands of years now. First it was kings that run the world, and they had kingdoms. And now it's changed to the political arena. And we're reaching the end now of politics and all of this. And they're heading toward what could be a final war, if they are the ones who are totally have power of what they want to do. In other words, they're leading us as people of the earth. They're leading us toward our destruction, and probably some sort of a nuclear wasteland that they could turn the world into ultimately in the future, if the people do not sit there and say, okay, we're going to put the responsibility for running the world completely on the back of the political structure. In other words, you handle it, the people. And that's been their opinion. But the people is going to have to take responsibility now at some point. Otherwise, it's going to be the end of us all. People's going to have to take responsibility, and they're going to have to say, hey, you know what? We've given a responsibility to the political ones. And we said, okay, you handle it, you make the decisions, you do this, you do that. And they haven't done it in a responsible way. They've done it like a bunch of squabbling little kids who are fighting over a toy. But they're playing with nuclear weapons. I mean, should be a no-brainer to humanity, and humanity's got to sit and they got to say, hey, we are the adults. We've got to take this control back, and we have to we were the ones who made the initial decision and put these people in office. And now what we have to do is we have to, instead of just letting them do whatever they want to do, we got to watch over this. We got to have some oversight. Otherwise, it's going to be the end of us all. Ultimately, that's what we're facing. And are we going to get our noses up and out of constantly looking at these cell phones and constantly looking at Twitch or whatever it is, or Flutter or whatever they have on the internet, whatever's popular right now, and start actually paying attention to what is actually really going on in the world? Because it's not nice what's really going on in the world. I mean, you can live in that fantasy world where you're constantly looking at your Facebook and Flitch and Twitter and all this kind of stuff. Or you can pay attention to what's really happening. And that's what shows like mine do, is to draw your attention to what's really going on out there. drawing your attention back from things like the cell phone and everything else. Okay, thank you guys for listening to the Delta Report. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys in the very next show. Bye-bye.